the highway meeting for June 11th at 8:30. Roll call. Everyone's present. Approval of minutes for the May 14th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. Enough public comment, anything? Nothing. Nothing for me. Staff reports.
Turn it over to Brent.
Okay, well, currently we've been doing a lot of paving and grading and getting our projects ready. Currently we have the finished mat. We've completed paving on County Road S up north of 170. We've also completed the paving on County Road G from D to 25. And today we are down starting on County Road Y by our old galley shop. Gonna try to get that all black, trying to get the bottom layer on both sides today. And whatever weather decides to do tomorrow, if we're able to pave tomorrow, we will put one side of the final mat on Y tomorrow. We still have shouldering on both S and G also, so we will shoulder if we cannot pave it sometime if it's not raining too hard. But we're trying to get the paving done and then get to shouldering. We do have some of the driveways that we have shouldered, and there is one concrete driveway we gotta do up on S. And they're also grading out on County Road J today. That is a possibility we have talked about. If there is a chance of scattered showers tomorrow, we may move to J, and if it's just spotty showers, we may do some binder on that tomorrow. That is a possibility. So one way or another, we're hoping to pave tomorrow if it doesn't rain too hard.
Did they do anything with that intersection on J and Rifle Range Road?
We are in the process of changing it a little bit, not a lot. We have discussed it.
See a little bit better.
Raising it up was gonna be a lot of work, and I don't know if that was gonna be too cost effective, but we're trying to get it where they can come in a little more square and able to see a little bit better to the left and to the right.
Just
So we were trying something.
some of the residents
Yeah,
right in that area that were asking me about it. Like,
we've looked into it and we're trying to do the best we can with the budget that we have. So that is, there will be some minor changes to it. It did raise up a hair in that area. And then we're just trying to square up that intersection.
Sure.
We also have started on our mowing of the state. We have started that this week. And we are mowing pretty much all the state roads north of 94. The only one south of 94 will be 1229 east. That should be it. Otherwise, we sprayed the rest. We've got County Road Double B. We did start on that. We put the big culverts in. We did all our culvert work out there. So when we get through our chip sealing season, which would start July 7th, then we will move on pulverizing that. We may pulverize that a little bit before, but then we'll start on work on Double B for paving and grading and paving that. Like I said, we are in the process of also today, we have to go out and log no passing zones on all our chip seal roads. So they're starting on that today. Then we got to tab them with our yellow tabs that we have. So they got to get all that squared away. We did pick up some more, town roads. The chip seal, so we've got a little bit of rock left to haul in. We had a rain day the other day on Monday. So we did go to Haas and haul some rock in too. So we got a little bit left of that. Otherwise, we should be ready to go as long as weather permits. I don't think I missed much on that. I know that Also, I don't know how D is looking with the properties and all that out there, but I know that we will do County Road G also by Stires to Jake's from that little area. We will do that. That'll be after chip sealing also. We'll start that a little bit later in the year. Other than that, we are
What little section did you say?
from Stires there on County Road G.
Yep.
Past the grain bends to the bridge, I guess to D.
Okay.
So we'll do that part too.
Is that south of that? You think it done at some point or?
That's what I'm, south of, on double B, you mean?
South of Stires.
South of Stires?
It's in the 5-year plan.
That is not gonna be done this year. I've had that question asked me,
Well, it's sad because it's like not in terrible shape, but it's rougher than heck.
right?
I got months out of your seat there.
Yes, it does. Other than that, I think that we are extremely busy. We are definitely keeping busy. There's no doubt about that. So, anybody have any questions?
Are you still working 4 days a week then with Fridays off?
Yep.
So what happened here, I think about a day or so after we had our last meeting, there was a big hailstorm and windstorm. And Highway B by 22 Mile Ford had a big tree fall down. And I can't remember what day it was on, but do you have anybody you can call up and say, hey, if we got a tree down, or you got somebody on standby?
That was actually during the week, but yes, we do.
Okay.
We did go out and take care of that.
Okay. I just wondered if that's somebody on,
We do have someone on call. Myself, Dan.
oh, there's a guy.
Myself, Dan, and Ken and Jay are 2 crew supervisors. We rotate on call.
Oh, okay.
So, and then, we get a tree down somewhere like up there, we send a couple guys. If it's real big and we need more,
Yeah.
then we'll send a crew up there to get it off. But more times than not, we at least try to send two to a tree
That's good.
for safety reasons. So,
So you're mowing the state roads right now,
correct.
and then you're gonna do the county roads,
Then we'll do the county.
some of the county roads.
Yeah, we sprayed the south.
We're mowing the north half
Mowing the north
right
half.
after we get done with the state.
Okay.
And yes, there will be some intersections that we have sprayed. I'm sure that we'll have to go and take care of.
Mhm.
If it's a danger, if there's sight vision problems, we'll go mow that down.
But spraying's all done so far.
Spraying is all done. And that was a struggle this year.
With the wind.
With the
Mhm.
wind and the rain and our trucks, we had some issues with our trucks too. But we got that squared away, I believe.
But do you have any, when you're out doing the interstate, do you have any kind of trucks like slowing down if they're real close to the interstate? Because sometimes when you're seeing driving the interstate, they don't slow down at
Oh,
all.
no, they don't slow down. When we went and sprayed that, we had a truck out there and then we had our crash truck behind as a buffer, slowing the traffic down and moving them over.
That's good.
So, yeah, that is very, very dangerous out there.
Mhm.
Obviously, we see how people don't pay attention. I don't know if anyone saw that crash out here by 29 Pines. There's a century fence truck that they ran right into the back of their truck or their attenuator.
Hmm.
The guy was in the back end of the truck moving paint cans around.
I've seen pictures of that on the
Yeah.
internet.
Is he
And-
all right?
He was all right. Yeah, never even got hurt. Threw him right into the headache rack. Yeah, literally, they saw it coming, but there was nothing they could do. Semi ran right into the back of the
Wow.
attenuator. I was definitely glad it was not my boy because he works for him. That's what he does. But yeah, it was happened not yesterday, but the morning before. Yeah, people don't pay attention, and it's on their phones. Sometimes it's the sun, but yes, we try, and it's sometimes you can do everything under the sun, and sometimes yes, we can do more too. We try to do as much as we can, and we also been trying to do some ditching too in some areas. We got a lot of ditching and some culvert work, maintenance work that we need to do, but trying to get through our paving first and all our projects. We did work out on Y yesterday, doing some ditching by the cemetery. So
Did
long overdue,
I was going up that way and I was like, well, I'll just turn around. 'Cause
long overdue, and so hopefully that There's a lot of happy people out there today. So that's all I have. If anyone thinks of any more questions, feel free. I'll let Dan know. Yep.
As far as the shop operations, we're just doing general maintenance, still getting things ready. We did a lot of work on the mowers and try to get them out. This week, we're still working on a couple of them yet. The guys we did have the pusher axles for the two chassis that we got. And I'm building the tri-axles. They did get the pushers on them and sitting out. Now we're just currently waiting for equipment to show up. It's all ordered. It's just a matter of getting it so we can start installing that. The two tandem axles that we have down at Universal that we got quoted quite a few years back, finally getting those taken care of. One of them is done, and I had to take it right to Eau Claire to get the front end aligned and other stuff checked over on it to make sure it's good to go. We should be getting that back here in the next day or so. Then we're going to install the pre-wet system on it, which would be the tank and the spray room and stuff. So we have it ready to go for the fall. So when it comes time for the fall, we can just bolt it on. So that will be here shortly. They were planning on the other one being done at the end of the month. So we should have those two trucks available for next week, which should be good. Otherwise, we did get Dustin and I, we did get the blade quotes back, and you guys, I think I'll go through that here. And it turned out pretty well, I thought, as far as the pricing and stuff on. There was some issues with possible tariffs and stuff, but I don't think we're issues with that. We did have our annual MSHA training on May 22nd. We had all the class for mine safety. And we also did the annual hearing test for that on that date. So that's good for another year now. Otherwise, that's about it. I guess the new trucks are really shining. I mean, we're running them every day, and right now we haven't had any issues at all. So that's just amazing. I mean, flat tire.
Let's say that.
In years past, when we had those older trucks, I mean, it was something, it makes it so much nicer now because the job gets done and we're not having downtime costs and errors and everything else. It's really beneficial to try to get the fleet newer, more ways than one. And pretty much we've got everything dug out and going, and Brent's been busy with road construction, so we've got all our equipment for that going, big excavators and dozers and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's that. No major breakdowns. Cross your fingers.
I was gonna add something, I guess, not that you guys care, but mainly we are coming out of the Menominee plant. Obviously, today we were coming out of the Menominee plant, and after load 9, they broke down, and they're gonna be down for the day. So we were all kind of a little bit of a tizzy. We got about 30 some guys on one job, and now we're gonna have to switch it up. But Monarch was very light and didn't have much work coming out of Plant 87 down by Rock Falls, and it's not a big difference for miles in hauling, and so they were able to get us in down there. So that was nice. So I thought we were definitely down for a day, and
So you're saying down on why?
down on Y. So yeah, we were coming out of Menominee, so now we're coming out of Rock Falls.
Yeah.
So
So do you have to go through, the county of like Pepin then to get to there,
they are, I believe, traveling 85.
all the way through?
Yes.
Across the river.
Yep. They could either travel 85 through Durand, come in that way, or they can come up H and go down C through Downsville, but I think 85 is a little faster, and it's all good to go
I
that
see you have little flags out there on your stop signs on C and
way.
C and what's the other one? H,
H&E.
yeah, he's on there. So I'm kind of paying attention.
You noticed it then,
Yes.
and they're doing their job.
You don't run them anymore?
No.
But I was saying, I was very, little bit of change in this morning, but it all worked out and I was glad Monarch was able to
Oh, good.
fit us in down there, so. And it'll probably wash out in the end. It's probably a little bit further to come from there, but the mix is a little bit cheaper down there. I don't think we would have did that if we were paving J, would we have? Or do you think we would have? That ain't that bad to come down.
Well, the biggest thing is to keep the guys moving.
Yeah,
That's gonna cost more than.
Yeah.
yeah, and it really
Trying
didn't,
to move them is more
it cost us probably about a half an hour to get things switched around. So
Yeah.
it was nice that they were able to move quick.
especially with the rain coming. It's nice to just, the
Yeah.
harder you can get her,
Yeah.
keep her moving.
Yeah, so it's nice to have both plants close.
Mhm.
So
How many trucks are you running today?
we are running 16 paving trucks today.
16
And then the rest of the guys are out on J and
So
one mowing and two getting ready for chip sealing. So, yeah.
John Deere tractor.
Yeah, might have been ours, I don't know.
Hmm,
No, we had McCormick's. Must
would have been
someone
McCormick's running. Well, we had a John Deere out
Yesterday.
Maybe it was yesterday, so.
But maybe when you're hauling black, you always have a tarp on them to keep them warm?
Yep.
You gotta have a tarp on.
Yep.
But it's not gonna blow away, I wouldn't think.
No, it's not gonna blow away, but we keep
Keep
it
it
on
warmer.
right before we get to the paver and then they. And Dustin, I don't know if he wants to add to it, we are gonna try, Monarch's bringing a shuttle buggy, they call it. Dustin can tell you a little more about that.
Yeah, so we're gonna try it on County Road Y, just on the surface mat. It's a transfer buggy. So load into this machine and then it agitates it back up and then puts it in our paver, to reduce segregation. So St. Croix's been doing it for the last 2 years and they've noticed a considerable difference. So if we can get a uniform consistency in that mix, we're gonna have a better longevity of that roadway instead of having cold areas in our mix. So,
But didn't St. Croix buy their own, like, mixer?
no.
I thought they had a mixer that they mixed it up.
So they've been utilizing Monarch's, transfer machine.
But the one we done out here on Highway, B, that was all mixed up, right?
Yep, that had a transfer machine and then, County Road H north of Elk Mound, when that was done, that had a
Okay.
transfer machine. So like I said, if it makes a huge difference, it's a very minimal cost and
Mhm.
the entire cost in our roadways is the asphalt. So if we can make that last 20-25 years, it's great. So,
Was on that H.
Right. Well, thank you guys.
Any questions?
Thanks, man.
and I'll just add some to Dan's equipment update here. So the new shop loader that we purchased or ordered, it is currently being delayed, for build. Supposed to be built here in July. Well, that got pushed back to August. Well, now it's back into September. They've been telling me it's due to certain parts, that they cannot get. So that's obviously delayed. So I've asked them to do whatever they can to do to get it here quicker than later. So, the self-propelled broom, they're planning on building that machine here in early July, and we should probably have it on the ground here by the end of July. Hopefully we can have that here when we start our seal coating process, so we can sweep all the loose chips off the roadway and see how it works. So, more information to come on that. And then just kind of reiterate on the fabrication. So originally we talked about fabricating a triaxle and a single or a tandem axle. That's what we had basically penciled in to do. Obviously we did talk about the increased costs of fabricating ourselves versus the outsourcing it. But we elected to do that in-house. And we did elect to do 2 triaxles instead of a tandem and a try to reduce the costs. We don't have to put underbodies on. We don't have a lot of the bells and whistles on it. It's just a front plow and a wing. A box. I mean, we're not putting a brine system on it for now. Doesn't, and we can't later. But it is reducing the cost. We do have 4 tandem or 4 single axles on our county system. When we plow in the winter months. So the goal is to eliminate those and we'd have tri-axles so we can have dual use in the winter and the summer for hauling, doing whatever we have. So we have more of a need for tri-axles than single axles.
Does that also help with being able to haul some more sand and stuff and
Yes,
routes and stuff, the other triaxle?
yes. Yeah, so basically single axle, you're looking at what, about 10 tons? On a tri-axle, you can get about 18, 19, somewhere around there.
What I'm getting at is they can stay out longer, which.
Yeah, so it's more efficient. Absolutely, I should say. So,
It's a big thing too, for the fact that, they can still have some in their box when they're done with the route, so you still have traction.
Yep.
Like a single axle, when you're on material, you gotta get some.
Yeah.
Traction, so, the tandems and triaxles will. So, yeah. Get some more parts and we'll keep working on them, so. Yeah, it's a lot easier to build too, the triaxles and, on the bottom and stuff. So,
sounds good. Well, we'll continue on with my report here. So just transition into our engineering project updates. So the County Road D project from 420th Street to County Road K, that's the Irvington Hill project. Storm sewer is currently being put in on the Irvington Hill portion. They are planning on finalizing this project here, try to do it by the end of June here to pave this project. It's going very quickly. It was I believe it was a 70-day contract from start to finish. I was out there last week. That's basically what the Irvington Hill looks like going up the hill currently. So they're making progress. It looks like a landmine right now went off, but obviously it'll all be shaped up and ready to go here, hopefully by the end of June for making that into a passable roadway.
So when you got that extra dirt, you bring it back here? Or do you use it at the site, or what do you do with any extra dirt? Can you
We
take
have
some out?
no control over this project. So this is an outsourced project that the DOT is overseeing. So the contractor has all full control over what comes in and what goes out of that road. So if there's excess dirt, they take it for themselves. So traditionally, if it's a very well-engineered project, you have your balanced cuts and fills, so you don't take any material out. That's usually stays on the job. So they did find a lot of clay, obviously going up the Irvington Hills. So they had to bring in a lot of borrow fill. So you'll see kind of that sandy shale. So they had to remove all that excess spoil and put some good material in. So there is going to be some change order costs included, but the project in general came in under estimates. So we do have some money sitting there for the 80-20 split. So
Can the residents, still use that road at all, or is that kind of off limits?
so the individuals that live on that road can have access to their residence.
Oh, okay.
But when I went up there, it almost looked like you had to have a 4-wheel drive to get through. So it was single lanes, loaders were coming in, semis unloading equipment. It was an obstacle course.
Right from Cedar, not Cedar Falls, but
From Irvington.
everything going up the hill, right?
Mhm.
Cause they had a bridge over Red Cedar.
Yeah, there's
But
other
you
ways
can go
around.
up the river road.
Yeah, you go up the road.
Yep. Yeah, I would say the individuals that live right on top of the hill would be the most effective. So there's probably about a half a dozen that area. The County Road D and G project, that's up by Jake's and Pioneer. So real estate continues. We still need the 2 parcels to start this project. We did make some changes. So obviously we informed you that we had to do appraisals. Unfortunately, so we started the process of appraisals. Those have been completed. I approved the offers Monday, So the offers came in exactly where we thought, what we originally offered, basically. So the one parcel, we went from, easement to actually purchasing now. If we're gonna go through the process of appraisal and spend the money, we're gonna purchase it. So we went through that process. And then the other one was we were gonna be purchasing it permanently. We elected to change it to a permanent limited easement, which is we would have an easement that we can access at all times. So we wouldn't own it, we would just be renting it, basically the one-time rent from the landowner. And we would have access to that property at any given time for maintenance purposes. So that is the one parcel that we need for discharging our storm sewer. So, it reduced the cost. We believe it is going to appease the landowner. Instead of purchasing it outright from them, it is a permanent limited easement is what we've switched it to. So those went out Monday. We're hopeful the review process, from the landowners, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, they make a decision. They have the right to request their own appraisal, which can take 60 days. So if they request their own appraisal, this project shut down for the year. So, so just letting you know the process. So we're hopeful in the next couple of weeks, we can get an answer and this project's gonna happen. We have gone full steam ahead. We have ordered the storm sewer, structures. We have, the Lambs Creek Bridge project, where we're gonna be widening that, removing the sidewalk. That's all full steam ahead. They're planning on delivering it here in July. Like I said, we're going into it like we're gonna do a project. So, but I just want you to be aware, if they don't accept the appraisal offer, then we go down a different path, and fortunately, this project may not happen. So
So how much on land are you actually talking?
very minimal.
Very, that's what you want to say, so why the big stink?
They're entitled. Like I said, the land is very precious, so completely understand it.
So they want their own appraisal, they pay for that, or do we have?
Only's got to pay for it.
Huh,
We've looked at every means, method possible to try to redesign the project, and the unfortunate thing is you can't, you gotta discharge storm sewer somewhere.
Yeah, man, ain't much you can do.
We looked at maybe trying to keep it close to the bridge by discharging it to the bridge in our own right of way. Well, that causes an issue with erosion and affecting the bridge structure. So it's like, we've tried every outlet possible, so. It's a process, unfortunately, that, like I said, everybody has their legal way of going about it, so we're just following the procedures.
Yep.
We're hopeful. Like I said, I do believe it's,
I think every other person on that road is gonna be severely disappointed if one person shuts the whole thing down, that's for sure.
and the project's gonna happen. It just, like I said, it may be delayed a year. So like I said, it will come with time, so. Like I said, we're going into it that we're gonna break ground in July, so we're hopeful. Like Brent mentioned, these are all of our projects this summer, the ones highlighted in green. So we started on the north end of our project list. County Road S, obviously that's been paved. We just need to shoulder it, in pavement marking, put pavement markings on it right now. County Road G was finished, paving up from, D to 25. Same thing remaining. We just got to shoulder it and put pavement markings on it. Double B, we installed the two very large culverts on that portion. They were 142 inch by 91. So two very large culverts. We looked at trying to keep them there, and not replace them to obviously reduce costs, but when you're sticking that amount of money into a roadway, I would rather replace these culverts and make them last another 70 years instead of an unknown. So we have to pulverize the roadway yet, and then obviously pave it, shoulder it, and pavement markings, which I think Brent has scheduled here sometime in late June for that work. County Road J, from the city limits to 410th Avenue. like Brent mentioned, we possibly could be paving that tomorrow if weather permitting. Otherwise it's scheduled for next week for paving that. The P 925 County Road V Flayton Creek Bridge, so that is a, STP bridge project, so that is where the DOT is paying for it to be replaced. Originally, this project was 100% funded. The bids came in over estimate and over what we had for a state maintenance agreement. Estimated cost was right around 460, came in at 495. So the unfortunate thing is we went to a change management request to get additional funding. With that being said, it was approved, but we have to pay a portion. So instead of 100%, now we're on the hook for about 7%. Comes out to about $37,000 is what we're gonna have to pay. So obviously we'll have to work with trying to absorb that somehow internally, or we're gonna have to, like I said, we're gonna have to do some type of budget adjustment.
So when you
for
go,
that.
because it came in higher, you have to just, for the difference between the two, what you had projected and what it actually costs, or you have to start from zero and go all the way up?
So we had funding allocated for that $460,000.
Yeah.
So it came in at 495, so we were on the hook for 100% of that difference, according to the state maintenance agreement. We did a change management, so now we have to pay basically 20% of that change. That makes sense. And then, like I said, we have design costs and all that in there, so it came out to about $35,000 is what we have to pay. So like I said, it's delaying that project isn't going to be a cost savings. I mean, if I had the authority to say, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to wait until costs come down. When that's going to happen, nobody knows. So at the end of the day, you got a $500,000 project and we're on the hook for 35,000. I'd still say that's pretty good cost savings on our end. So that project, I don't have a date on when that's getting replaced or started. I would anticipate sometime later this fall. And then last but not least, the seal coating project. So Brent mentioned that as well. So that is going scheduled the week of July 7th. So obviously if you have concerns with cracked windshields and all that stuff, don't drive on some of these roads. Which if everybody abides by the 35-mile-an-hour posting that we put on it, we don't have that issue, but it does happen. So here's some photos of the finished results. And I want to plug Brittany for taking these photos. She is a professional photographer, so this is her beautiful photo work. As you can see, apparently you got to take pictures down on the ground. You got to learn from this. So
Who will see you out there laying on your belly taking pictures?
no, it's going to be Brittany. She's got a fancy camera that she brought in and took pictures. And like I said, it's up there on County Road S. That's the finished product right there. County Road G. I took that photo, or she took that photo when we only had one finished mat on one side. So obviously that got finished yesterday. Those are the culverts on Double B. That's a photo of one of them. They look smaller than they actually are, but that's 141 inches wide and 90 some inches tall. So it's deceiving. It only looks like about a 30-inch culvert to me, but they're very large. And then County Road J, obviously you can see what's happening there. They must be prepping some intersection there.
So
Ready for
that truck,
paving.
is that a triaxle? Because you got one,
That is a quad axle, so it's got two tag axles.
okay. And so when you're empty, you just like raise them up so you're not wearing out the tires then.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you're wondering what a self-propelled broom is, right there in the middle, that's the machine that we're probably going to be getting rid of.
If you get, I can't remember if we got a owner or.
We got a midline.
Or we get a call.
I told Dustin I wanted a self-propelled broom.
Well, that one will probably be for sale.
They're called roofies or something like that.
Is that what you're gonna do in the future?
He said it would cost me $80,000, so.
That's for a new one.
All right.
We'll give you a heck of a deal on a used one.
Be the cleanest street in town up there where she lives.
Exactly. I could just go around, drive around town, cleaning the streets.
I guess any questions regarding any of the project stuff? Like I said, going back to the DG project, we're still hopeful that it's gonna take place here, but we'll know more information here in the next few weeks, so. I'll transition into the Boyceville, shop salt shed. So WISDOT did, approve 100% funding to replace the existing shed at our Boyceville location. So we sent in last year, we sent in a estimated cost on what it would take to replace that shed. And they approved it, so we have allocated funding. There is a possibility we could actually do this project this year. If I can actually get my butt in gear and try to get all the paperwork, get it moving, signing an agreement and getting all that stuff, put together. So right now, the current shed holds 325 tons of material. We're looking at proposing 1,000 tons, which would be a similar hoop style shed that we have built in Colfax and O'Galley. So similar to that. Obviously that structure, I think, was built in the early 70s. And obviously it's just seen its useful life. But
So is it for state projects, where we can go and use that salt, or is it 50/50 or something?
so typically what happens is with the agreement is that would be 100% allocated state salt in the shed. So basically they would be paying for the shed, build it on our property. That's the agreement that we'd have to come through is, who maintains what going forward, all that stuff. The state will fund it if it needs to be, if there's some major repairs on it going forward. That particular structure was actually built and paid for by the county back in the 70s. So that's the only shed that the county has built that we currently utilize. Otherwise, the state has built them all. And all the salt is state salt. So basically they give us kind of a little rental, very minimal, put their state salt in it.
But it's still
We-
our trucks that
we-
go out and
Yes.
spread that salt.
We will use county salt out of this pile. But we basically replenish it, what we
Okay.
use. So if that makes sense. So the only county salt we have here is physically in Menominee. We don't have any in the outlying shops. We will use it, but we replenish it. And our guys know not to use salt unless it's an emergency situation. Straight salt sand on the county.
Looks like Greaser needs to go fix that sign.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I took this off of Google Maps, so traffic view, so I don't even know if that sign's there. That could have been 2
Looks
years
like,
ago.
looks like
The
he's being, really cost effective by reusing this.
repurposing, absolutely. I have no idea what it says on the other side.
Yeah.
So the O'Galley Dam, just wanted to let you know about that. So O'Galley Hydro is a company that has been producing power and basically leasing this dam. So this is the one hydroelectric dam in Dunn County that the county actually owns. So obviously, if you're familiar with Lake O'Galley, this is what impounds that lake. So that was something I believe the county basically just took over on back taxes back in the day. So that was well before my time, but in 2012, O'Galley Hydro started leasing this to produce power. So they've been producing power the last few years when they can. I know it's a come and go type of thing where they produce power 1 month, they're not producing it the next month, and it's just a revolving door down there because they have a lot of problems with their turbine that they have brought into the powerhouse. So The company is reorganizing, and I don't know what that means. But 06 is a company out of the cities, out of Minnesota, that's taking over this particular lease. So I'm working with Jim, with the Corp Council to redo our lease for this particular dam structure. So like I said, it's just hopefully as simple as changing O'Galley Hydro to 06 on our lease. The lease is based off of how much power they generate. So at a minimum, it's $5,000 and a max $7,500 per year. But a lot of it is based on what they generate for power. So on average, like I say, it comes out to right around that 7,000, what we've been getting annually.
I think they sell back like 50 grand to Excel.
Yeah, majority of it goes right to Excel. So now obviously there's a power distribution right there. So just wanted you to be aware, just in case anybody's asking what the heck's going on. Why are they not generating power? Why during this transition, it's probably going to take a little time.
So how many dams do we have in Dunn County that are generating power? We got Cedar Falls and O'Galley. Does one in Menominee, does that generate power? Ask
Yes.
people that they do.
So Menominee Cedar Falls is Excel, and then this is the only one that's county owned.
Oh.
Unfortunately, the county owns it, in my opinion.
Sooner or
It's a
later,
lot of work, and it's going to take money to someday at least maintain this.
can the fish still go up there, I wonder?
Doubt it.
Up there,
No, that's,
They'd have a hell of a jump.
that's a
That'd be
lot,
Big jump.
that's a lot farther than it looks.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Down there,
the
it's like
crest
it's
is, I want to say that's like 35 feet.
Where's it compared to the Menominee one? Close,
I don't, I'd say this is a lot smaller.
lot smaller.
So this is a low hazard dam, so it, just to let you know, if this dam gave way, breached, there would be no life lost impacts downstream. So that's why they consider it a low hazard dam.
Mhm.
Could it potentially take roads up? Absolutely, it could affect that, but no housing, no anything of that sort. So like I said, I just wanted you to be aware that we're working that on our end. I just wanted to put in here, just to have a kind of a background and a discussion on this. So I was approached by Supervisor Bauer, that there's been a lot of his constituents that have been concerned about the speeding on County Road H, south of Rock Falls. So back in 2022, we did do a speed study, and this was prior to us redoing the road. So this road was redone last year. Obviously, when you redo a road, roads are smoother, speeds have a tendency to go up. So back in 2022, when we did this speed study, it found that 85% of the vehicles go 42.8 miles per hour. Safely. That is typically what you post a roadway at, is what 85% of the individuals driving on that road are traveling in a safe manner. So the posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour. At that point in time, we kind of concluded that there was no need to change the speed limit. We did install pedestrian signs north and south of the park here. We did suggest at that time that the town may or should look into off-street parking. The picture right there is the amount of parking they have at that park.
Mhm.
There's lands to the south of this that the park owns where they could possibly look at putting a parking lot or something like that. That is the biggest concern, as individuals are parking across the road over at the town hall and the fire hall, walking across the road. They built some pickleball courts there, so obviously there's a lot more people utilizing this park on a daily basis. So I did reach out to WISDOT about the even possibility of lowering the speed limit to 25. Obviously, we would have to redo another speed study to determine that. And at the end of the day, we could post this road to 5 miles an hour and it still needs to be enforced. So the sheriff's department can't be there 24/7, 7 days a week. So we all can understand that. Is there ways that we could try to calm the speed? Yes, unfortunately, we'd have to redo the road. We'd have to put curb and gutter, sidewalks, we'd have to do all that stuff, and I don't think we have the money in the budget to even think about doing that. Like I said, I think a huge help would be to try to get some off-street parking for that park. And then I did reach out to the sheriff's department. They did put one of their trailer radars down there to try to let people know that they're speeding. We did look at the possibility of installing those radar speed limit signs when you come into a lot of villages or cities. I spoke with Elk Mound, who has them on County Road H. They have seen no difference. I spoke with the city of Menominee. I believe they have it on Fifth Street. They actually have seen increased speeds. So like I said, historically, they don't work.
And they're expensive.
What city told me is I thought he said they're $1,600. An average sign is about $100.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
It's a very, very large cost, and at the end of the day, it does not.
So I don't know, personally, when I see one of those signs, it makes me,
It does
Me
mean,
too.
It
I
does.
do.
I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, when I come down that Fifth Street one, I'm like, I
yeah,
don't feel like I'm going fast at all, and that's,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's still blinking at me, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. So I do slow down.
same with, I just went through Ridgeland the other day, they got that one in
Yep.
Wheeler,
Yep.
you know, coming into Wheeler and, you know, they both make me react
Does
properly.
me too.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I'm not gonna,
Is that something the township can pay for to put in, if that's what they want to do, or we have to do it?
Well, it's our traveled roadway, so it's our roadway, so it's an unincorporated
Village,
community.
yeah.
So it's our road.
But they want,
That's some type of agreement we could come
oh, I'm
with
just
on the
curious.
town level.
Which I
Absolutely.
think they should get involved. I mean, if they're, you know,
It's their it's their park. So
Yes.
that's kind of what.
And I don't know if it's just the individuals at the park that are concerned. It could be the residents just up the road here. I don't know. I was not given any names or anything like that.
one of those by like the pedestrian crossing and stuff, you would think at least bring awareness. And right before that, hey, you're going too fast, pedestrian
Yeah.
crossing.
yeah.
Are you saying, you know, just put some, crosswalks there, if they can see it? Oh, because if they're parking there, a crosswalk would kind of get their attention.
Yeah, he said they put some signs up, and I guess I don't know if there's not a picture of that, I don't know what they look like, but yeah. Pedestrian crossing with a little bit before that, put the speed limit and that, and I think. Even if they slow down for just a little bit when people are crossing there, at least it would. Maybe pacify the situation. People, I guess.
So those signs like solar then, because so you don't have to have power to them? Is that-
Yeah, so there's multiple options. You can have them powered directly or you can have solar. I do know cities are solar powered. What's unique with the cities is it actually records data. So they actually are recording your speed, but it's the only initial speed that it sees the vehicle. So if that means
Okay.
people are actually slowing down, they don't know that.
Right.
It only sees, I asked, I said, what is that distance that it picks it up? And he thought it was 200 feet. So maybe people are slowing down, but they don't have that data.
That would be really cool if they did.
It'd be nice if they
Like,
just
how much-
had that and then just send a ticket up.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sure that technology.
Like
exists.
tollways, I mean,
Oh, it
it does exist, so.
It doesn't.
You see cameras up.
if they're having events there, I mean, can they put like cones or something out in the middle of the road to,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we could redo our traffic study.
well, I'm
We
just
could- we
curious.
could
I
Put a
mean, I'm
traffic,
just trying to, like I said, they called me too, and I mean, simple solutions is what I'm trying to find. But, I mean, if they put a cone out or a couple cones out in that road, in the middle of the road, I would think that would help slow people down a little bit.
Small load of gravel.
But you know, I went through, like, the town of Elk Mound Saturday, it must be in the event center, because
Yeah, I see the same
everyone
thing.
had, like a garage sale going on there, so they did have the signs out there.
Like I said, historically, I hate to say it, nothing really helps unless it's enforced.
I hate to say it, but the biggest thing would be probably to clear some of that wood south of the park and make some parking there, because I mean, they have plenty of property there. They could make some kind of,
I think it would be a huge safety improvement if they could do something like that instead of having individuals cross the roadway or park along the shoulder and all that. I mean, it would help. That's part of the park, but I'm not saying that's gonna help reduce speeds.
Does Rock Falls have its own council then? Is that like, you know, kind of like a,
It's a top rock
not
creek.
township, I'm just looking at that woods, I mean, that'd be the easiest place to put a parking lot, is south of the park. Although that's not cheap either to remove trees and travel up, but long term, I think that's the best solution.
Oh, I agree. That was, like I said, it was something we presented to the town, like this is what we concluded and maybe off-street parking would be another option. So,
Yeah, they could cut the trees down. Get them out of there, it'd be too bad. Tree guy.
catching a lot of
That would be volunteer at all.
Trying to get him some work.
so like I said, we have a counter, we can set up a counter to monitor speeds. We have that.
Biggest thing is enforcement. I know they can't be down there all the time.
Yep.
But a few tickets would go a long ways down there. Work with.
I mean, at the end of the day, like you say, it might be 1% that ruins it for the 99%.
It's always that way.
So everybody will always look at that one individual that keeps speeding through there. So we can ticket that or stop that.
It's coming from the south, it's hard to slow down. Realize how fast you're going until.
So then we'll go into financials. So put forth in front of you the financials. So that's our capital expenses on the top there. As you can see, we're projecting about $104,000. In the positive for that. And then our 7,100 is that bottom one. So that's our overall highway budget. As you can see, that's including everything. We are also projecting a surplus on that. Beat and I and Joy are actually going to go through these a little bit more in depth and possibly make some adjustments with some of our projections on how we're doing that. We just didn't have a whole lot of time to go through that prior to the meeting. This is our 2600 that we will always call 2600, which is our county projects, county maintenance, county services. So basically anything county related that we do on our roads is that budget. We're projecting that, like I said, it's net zero, but like I said, we're gonna look at that in a little bit further detail. And then our bridge aid, that's basically what the town submit to us for any type of bridge structure, 36-inch diameter or larger, that they get 50% funding on. So that was what we paid out for projects that happened last year, that 126,000, which is a special levy. So if I can get it, this is the one that I like the most, is our Chems report. This tells you as of 5/17, which is May 17th, that's as far as this is updated. So this gives you a breakdown of all of our maintenance and construction costs. Tells you where we're sitting. Gives us all every detail you want to see. So right now we've spent 2.5 million of the 11.6 budget. As you can see, a lot of this cost is not here quite yet with a lot of our projects. There's over 60% of our cost is just in asphalt. So you won't see a lot of that cost in these numbers quite yet. So we're always a month behind. It's unfortunate, but that's when we put asphalt down, we don't get invoiced until about 2 weeks later, and then it takes us, like I said, a week or two to process all that. So we're always a month behind. So any questions with that? Study it. Take it with you wherever you go.
I'll tell you what, it is good. I mean, it really is.
So the St. Paul's Bridge, the 13,000, what's that was for inspections or?
Yeah, so we had to do, inspect that, but that was a structural review that needed to be done based off of the inspection. So that was that cost for that structural review plus our inspection costs. So it's all just lumped in.
It's $14,000 just to.
Yep.
Wow.
And that was basically, the portion that wasn't billed last year. That came into 2025.
Oh, okay.
So it was done last year, but it came into 2025.
Yeah.
Any questions, concerns? And as you can see, obviously, the portion of County Road D that up by Jake's and Pioneer, we had budgeted 1.2 for that, so. We will have some costs to it, obviously, this year, even if the project does not take place. We will be purchasing, obviously, the storm sewer. We will be culverts. We are gonna put culverts in. We're gonna, like I said, if it doesn't take place, we're still gonna be doing work on it.
So even if we don't repay that, we're gonna put the culverts and everything in.
Plan is to do all the culverts.
So at least it'll speed up the project for next year. Because that's what a lot of the concern is that I hear at my end is people being worried about, and obviously the business in particular, but all the people, it's like, well, then it's gonna string out throughout the year, so. It would be nice, that's good news to hear, at least we're gonna move forward with it and.
Like I said, we can do some of the stuff. I mean, we can put culverts in. I explored the option of redoing the Lambs Creek Bridge by removing that sidewalk. The unfortunate thing is you gotta peel the asphalt off, and I don't know if anybody's gonna wanna have a road that has no asphalt sit over the winter. In that particular stretch, so I was like, well, maybe we would just get the materials, pay for the materials, have it in our yard here, and wait till we shut the road down when we do the construction. Otherwise, it's just. We're gonna shut the road down for a week, do that, and then open it back up, and it's gonna be gravel, and I don't wanna spend money by putting an asphalt patch over it for the winter.
Right, that's what I was thinking too. I mean,
I mean, it's a possibility. If we do the smaller culverts, we would probably just throw in some like cold mix or something.
Yeah.
Through the winter, so it's not gravel,
Okay,
but
that's what I was thinking. Okay.
the bridge would be a lot larger portion. It'd be probably a couple 100 feet.
Yeah.
Instead of 10 feet.
Mhm.
So. But like I said, I'm going into it, it's taking place, so I'm hopeful. So let's all be positive about it.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, any questions?
Question for you.
Yes.
What is more important, the judicial center, getting that up to date, or like a new, non?
Well, that's what we're gonna talk about, maybe
That's
next.
next.
Oh, we have questions, okay.
There you go. Totally. Good segue.
Hold on.
Yes, I'm getting all ready for donuts.
Hold on. All right, so that's it for that. 7A, highway vouchers. They're in here someplace. We'll need a motion.
Make a motion to accept the higher vouchers.
Second. Second, any questions on any of the expenses?
Anything? I'm assuming there's no update on the sample bridge really or anything there.
Otherwise, all in favor of approving highway vouchers?
I-
Motion passes. Winter plow blades fee in your packet.
Yeah, I sent it out very late, was it Monday, yesterday, is that yesterday?
Yep.
Monday. Yeah. So in your packet, I did put the results in there, so we were looking at, ordering our rubber blades, for this winter. Obviously, we start now for winter. It comes sooner than we think. As well as, getting some additional grader blades for winter plowing. We have a number of them. I think we have about 90, I think Dan said we have 97 on hand right now, but obviously we go through at least one set, if not two sets for each truck every year. So we have to replenish that. So we had 4 results, US Blade and Chain, HNL, Masabi, Rolling Machine, and Burke Truck. So what I provided in front of you is the costs that they submitted to us. Based on our quantity, and what came in low proposal was Rolling Machine. In the amount of $54,866.60 for the entire purchase of the rubber blades and the grader blades. So that would be my recommendation, is to proceed with Rolling Machine to purchase those materials.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Rolling Machines on rubber carbide inserts and grader blades.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. On to the updated 2630 highway CIP. This is why the bosses are here.
I brought a handout, that speaks to the dollars. So as you're thinking, and,
And I'll just go back. So in your packet, I did provide what was approved at the CIP. So obviously there's some equipment in there, and just to refresh your memory, obviously the Menominee shop, we were looking at trying to do some of the design work next year, and then, obviously try to build an addition for storing our equipment, in the future. So, just to reiterate what was in your packet from previous.
All right.
I'll let you.
right, well, I kind of invited myself to this meeting. I thought you might,
Thank you very much.
appreciate some of the financial side of this project. And as we know that on the horizon, we have the geothermal, and there's also a discussion about building the highway facility and then the renovation. So I reached out to PMA, who is our, assists us with issuing debt. Reach out to him to say, create us a plan that will kind of identify what does it look like to borrow, given the existing ceiling of 5.3 million of debt levy, what we would levy for debt service payments. So
Nada, before you go into that, can I just set the table a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, so, this isn't the financial part. This is so we were intending to do the geothermal and solar project to replace the HVAC system at the judicial center. Turns out that that was not doable with the plan that was proposed by Verigy. So it came back to facilities last month to ask them, did they want to move forward with exploring a traditional HVAC system or a geothermal system? They're probably relatively closely priced. And they, after some debate, decided to recommend moving forward with a geothermal system. So in answer to Gary's question about what's more important, so that if you'll recall, the main issue with the HVAC system in the judicial center are the controls. So if we replace some of the parts of the existing system before it fails, we locked ourselves into replacing a traditional system. Because the parts are expensive and we put $500,000 into the existing system or $1 million into the existing system, then we are kind of locked into that. If we are going to change over to geothermal, then that would negate putting parts into the existing system and require us to do it in one fell swoop. So after the facilities committee's debate, they decided to recommend going forward with the geothermal. So at this month's county board meeting next week, we will ask you to approve a capital improvement plan, and that will be facilities recommendation to put geothermal on for next year, and your recommendation to put the design, engineering and design for the highway structure. So that's why Beata's here now, to kind of give you the financial picture to both of those projects and what some potential options are.
So there's 3 scenarios, and behind this handout, I have more detail, but it's so tiny. I provided more of a high level summary. So again, as Chris said, there is potential of having 2 projects. So there's the geothermal, and then there's the highway facility and the renovation. So when I reached out to PMA, where the idea was to be at that $5.3 million ceiling as far as our debt service each year. So with that in mind, they prepared a schedule to help us identify when would be the opportunity to make these projects happen. For the geothermal project on this scenario, one would be to borrow for it in 26. And our first debt service payment would fall under the 2007. And that's all based on that 4% estimated interest rate. And what also is in that schedule, accounting for an annual borrowing for county road and bridge of $3 million. So with the $9.5 million borrowing alone, without the projects for the highway, would put us at that 5.3 from 2016 to 2031. And then it's, I'm sorry,
2026.
I'm sorry, 2026 to 2031. And after that, that's when it becomes an opportunity to bring in additional debt. So this is what you see as scenario 2, is to then integration of the highway facility constructions and the renovation. So here would be planned borrowing for the facility construction of that 11.46 million in July of 29. So then in 2031 is to plan for the renovation. But then with that schedule, we are at $5.8 million service, and that will stay until 2050. So that would result in an increase of $500,000, what we would over the threshold of 5.3 for the debt service. So scenario 3 would be.
Got a question mark?
Yeah.
Did you have a question mark?
Yeah,
You go ahead.
I'll ask it when you're done.
Okay. Right, scenario 3 would be to postpone the highway facility construction to 2032. But then, the price could vary because there's no guarantee that it's going to be at 11.46 million. And it might be 15 million. But then if that gets postponed, then we're going to maintain that 5.3 million target debt service ceiling, and that will go until 2051. and then plan on borrowing the year after for the renovation. And behind there, like I said,
So
it's more itemized.
my question was, you hit on it, I think. That pushing this, like scenario 2, pushing it out to 2029, 11.46 is our number today. But by 2029, that number is gonna be different for the same, for what we're envisioning today. You know,
Most likely.
what we can get done and stuff like that. It's a very, history tells us that it's not gonna be the same product in 2029 for,
And then also interest rates. You know, that can change when the time comes as well. But right now, PMA is basing it at on 4.5%
Yeah.
interest.
so. Okay,
So we again wanted to, I asked PMA to say, try to, structure a debt where you can present and say, is it doable? And if it is, how far out? So giving those,
so I guess, yeah, and I guess where I'm at is they're estimating a interest rate at 4.5, okay? They projected that out,
Mhm.
so how come they didn't project the inflation or if we're gonna push it out to 2029 or 2031 or whatever,
yeah.
we could have taken that 11.46 and said, this is gonna now cost you 15.7, and this is what the cost, you know what I mean, or whatever. I maybe it's too hard to estimate that. I get it.
I guess
I'm asking the question.
So
That's all.
it's
I can-
unknown.
I can add 2 cents into that. So when I worked through the whole needs analysis, the engineer that put that together recommended adding 10% every year
I was just gonna say, there was a
at a minimum.
figure there.
It was
Yeah,
roughly
I figured.
basically a 10% increase.
Figured, yeah.
And PMA can run these numbers for us really quickly,
These are
but we
just
just ask them whatever
preliminary,
they.
just-
Yeah, no, I can give them numbers.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think I'm questioning,
No, it's okay.
anything structurally wrong here. I just, in my mind, as I look out, if we're gonna look out and make these decisions, I'd like to have a little, and the 10% and them doing a study, rather have a little bit better idea what that number is gonna look like within a ballpark. It doesn't have, I'm not gonna hold anybody's feet to the coals on it or anything, but, that's gonna be more like 14 million, or, if you say 10% a year, we're looking at 114, yeah,
0.2 million.
yeah, 1.2 million, yeah. Roughly. Correct. So,
So there's another piece of the consideration, and Dan and Justin and I have talked about this, but we haven't acted on it yet. But there also is the ongoing question of the outlying buildings, the satellite buildings, shops, and what might need to happen with them with regard to maintenance in the next 5 to 10 years. Just gonna keep that as a placeholder in mind, because I think Dustin has a recommendation for you, but that would be one of the considerations, as well as if there is additional monies to be expended to do some maintenance on the satellite shops.
Yeah, and this is basically showing a perfect world scenario with that we would know. I mean, obviously there's 5, 10 years down the road, that's all changing.
Yeah.
I
Your
guess,
recommendation?
when I was talking to Dan, and we both discussed this for a while now, and obviously the HVAC system at the judicial center is a necessity. That's right. I mean, you need to have it. We've lived here for 40 years without having the addition. Can we live another 40 years? Absolutely. I truly do believe that. Will there have to be money invested in it? Yes, at some point in time. I guess what I would like to do is put everything on hold on the highway level. Research this a little more. Is there cost savings that we could do? Could we look at a different size building? Can we look at a different type of building? Can we, I don't know, just look at a manufactured Menards building type? There's always options out there. And I think we need to do our due diligence on my end too, to just weigh out every option. If there is cost reduction. I'm a proprietor. If we're gonna invest and borrow, I would like to see it in our roadways before I see it in our buildings. And obviously, we're looking at trying to invest $3 million into our road infrastructure. So like I said, based on a need and a necessity, HVAC system is a necessity. What we're proposing is a need, but it's not a necessity. So that's my recommendation is we would put everything on hold for this building renovation. Explore other options and opportunities in the future.
There is one other alternative. I'm not advocating for it. I just want you to know that it's a consideration. You can borrow for both. It'll just bump your debt service up over what that 5.3 that Beata references is what we've been annually paying for the last several years and anticipate paying in the, so we don't raise our levy at that $5.3 million mark.
Right.
If we bump over that, then we raise our levy to fund.
Is that shown in one of these?
Yes, so I narrowed it down for you on scenario
So scenario
two.
Yep.
Would be to get the geothermal is scheduled for 2026. You would put in your CIP for 2028, which is the design, and 29 would be the construction.
And that bumps the debt service by about $500,000 a year.
So, question on Universal Center. So, as far as the solar seemed like that was the thing ever, all of a sudden that fell apart. Why, I'm not 100% sure, but is that something that like will ever be added? I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm just saying, is that something that's like, in 5 years, we can add that to the geothermal system like we were originally going to and get some cost savings there? Or is this kind of one of the things that's like, well, that's done, gone?
No, I don't think it's done and gone, but I do think that it's another situation that needs to have some analysis and determining what are the kind of the campus-wide solar potential
Sure.
and need. But this would be just the geothermal side. In terms of the why the solar / geothermal fell apart, the clearest answer is, so the, okay, because we have 24/7, because we have people living in the facility and working in the facility 24/7. The project was being planned around building one system to go operational while you took the other system down. So that all the piping would allow for two systems so that we could continue to have air and heat during the period of time for roughly probably 2 months or more. That was about a $2 million adventure to be able to run those dual systems. It's not going to be popular to say we would put in HVAC and take down the current system and run with supplemental air and heat systems for a couple of months. But for $2 million, we may well have to consider that. So, but just keep in mind that we have people that don't have a choice about being there, that we have some responsibility to create. They can't open their windows, they can't, etc. To create cooling or heating. Now, we believe that there's some timing issues to that, what time of the year that you would do that. So if you do that in September and October, that probably looks different than if you do that in July and August or January and February. And so we believe that we can mitigate some of those concerns and not have to create dual systems and dual piping. But the primary reason why that program or that proposal became cost prohibitive was to run those dual systems.
So is there an option to transport those people to a different facility for a couple months?
It would dramatically increase the cost. So when we brought in, when we brought in state prisoners, state inmates, so two numbers come to mind. One's $40 a day and one's $70 a day, which I didn't realize are dramatically different, but let's just settle on $50 a day. $50 a day times 100 people times 2 months would be kind of your number of what it would cost to house someone someplace else. Plus the back and the forth of getting them to court hearings and those types of things that happen in between.
There's gotta be a way to do supplemental.
Well, I think, you know, you hit the nail on the head with your time of the year. You know, you can, like you said, hit it September, October, you know, or April, May. You have a better chance of having less need for, you know what I mean?
It might not be perfect, but I think we could create at least livable conditions.
I think it would be way better.
Because of compressor failures in the government center, we ran particularly environmental services for almost a year on supplemental systems. It was not ideal. We did swamp coolers and things like that, and it's not great, but I think we can
make it work.
we can figure it out.
Yes, yes. I agree.
And I know Dan is lurking.
Yeah, he's online.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add, Dan?
Yeah, I would just say, I think the other piece of that is that in addition to the additional costs, it was going to impact the debt service. So we would have seen an increase to the debt levy, and that was part of the reason why we stopped that project. Is as it was kind of presented to the board, that was to not increase taxes. So if a change were to increase taxes, we wanted to make sure that you had the ability to make that decision all over again.
Hypothetically, but if you did raise that 500,000, do you have a number on what that's gonna be on a tax bill? Curious.
So would be on the range of that $13 to $15 per
Per
$100,000.
Okay.
That's if we did both. That's
Yeah.
what you're asking?
Well, if we postpone that scenario 2, where they're raising the increase 500,000 on the debt service, which would increase taxes. So I'm just kind of curious to have a rough estimate on that. Which is what, $16 to $15 per 100,000?
Because I'm not on the facilities committee, would you go with a system for each place, for government center and for judicial, or would you try to make it bigger, handle both of them?
On geothermal?
Right.
So the proposal was to use part of the well system from the government center to also power the judicial center. Obviously, until we would get into a total design. The other piece of this, though, is that because Verigy because we pulled the plug on that project, they're actually going to give us the design, which will save us about, if you look at your design, engineering and design for a building of $750,000. Our agreement with them said if they did some work on our behalf and we didn't, we would owe them, it would be about $100,000, but they're going to give us their design for that. So we're having some savings that we'd actually have the design. So, but until we have that design in place, I mean, that their current design involved utilizing some of the existing wells.
Yeah, they were gonna interconnect them, basically, is what their project was, and they're giving us that. Or
But by going to a different company, how can we make it work? And if this company can't do it, why would a different company come in and do a cheap.
Sure, it's not so much that this didn't work, it's what they said that they thought that they could do. And what we sold it to the board with them being able to do was not how it turned out, and it wasn't, we didn't want to do a bait and switch. To say, so originally, loosely, the idea was they could utilize, that we always knew the HVAC system does not pay for itself quickly. It takes a long time to recoup that cost. Versus a traditional system where you really never recoup that cost. But the HVAC system eventually kind of, it's a long-term investment. But the solar was gonna offset some of the cost of that geothermal operations. Once they had to factor in the piping, then that took solar out of the judicial center and the government center and NDC and made it just a solar project for the judicial center. And then that changed all the equations on which sort of the idea was all built. And it would have meant that we would have had to borrow money. We originally believed, and they believed that we could do it levy neutral, and that wasn't going to be the case. Now, Dan did have a conversation with them. To their credit, this is the first project that they've had that has not been able to go forward as they worked with various school districts and municipalities. So it is a bit of an unusual circumstance, but so they can bid if we were to decide to move forward. I mean, we're going to move forward with something, but if we move forward with HVAC, they can become one of the proposers in the project. And I would guess likely would, since they did all of the groundwork to do that, but
Just under different parameters.
just under different parameters, right? Nothing guarantees of cost savings.
And timing and all this other stuff we have to do. So,
No easy
Do
answer.
we have a proposal on the table or no?
I just made my recommendation that we obviously just postpone
Do
the
we,
building portion of our CIP.
so basically, obviously this is all contained, this is a 5-year program, and we're not doing it. Proposing to until 29 with even scenario 2, right? Which could still change next year.
Right.
And our CIP in 2026.
That's right.
So I mean,
Maybe anticipating there might be some savings for the road and bridge to from 24. Once we get the final audit, so some of that excess money we might be able to look to see, do we need to borrow yet this year? For that. But not until we kind of get the audit, we're gonna see where that road and bridge fund ended.
And kind of again, just to highlight where you're at, this committee approved adding to the 2026 CIP, the
Right.
engineering and design costs.
which we're gonna quote.
So this committee would be the one that would recommend either continuing along that path or pulling those and moving them out of the 2026 CIP and then one of
Putting
these
them
other
in
scenarios.
the construction and 28, and just put that,
Based on these numbers, though.
Yeah.
Like I
Because
said,
this will go to executive committee this
We
afternoon.
have to decide that today.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to decide if we'll do the executive tonight, today, this afternoon.
so some years.
that's why I asked what I asked.
And the reason you have to, okay, do you absolutely have to? No, and I'll let Dan debate with me if you don't. The difficulty is it becomes very hard to start to build a budget if we don't have our CIP costs finalized. So could you push it out another month to July? Yes, the county board doesn't meet until the end of July. Departments are to submit their budget requests by the early part of July. And our hope is to bring that to the board in a budget workshop in August. So it really crunches the timeline to not do it this month.
The big question is, should we postpone at least for the highway shop engineering in 2026.
With that to 2028.
28 or beyond. Right? Is that kind of the,
So is it,
Based on this, if the facility construction, I mean, so this is where we would actually go and borrow. So this doesn't July means we're gonna start breaking ground and building. Could be, if it's within that, couple months, we issued debt, we'll just put it back for what we would have taken it from, fund. So just keep that in mind, that July is just when we would actually go and issue the debt. So then, we could, make that the 28th to issue the debt of that 11.5. And the construction the year before. Because if the construction goes to 27, then year later, you would have, which would be 2020.
Okay.
And which would need to some rework to see what that
number would
debt
be?
service, right?
I have no problem with postponing it for a couple of years. I just don't know if that's, I don't know, about 5, 6 years. That's just,
I mean, if I can add to another item to consider, when these scenarios were put together by the firm,
Mhm.
they also offered options, right? So fast forward couple of meetings, this board says, if we're gonna build something, let's just get the whole thing. But there were other options. We can always revisit those other options.
Or there may be new ones for us.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, the biggest thing is we'd be just looking at 2026, delaying the engineering. That's not to say the project's gonna be,
right, that's what I mean. That's the only thing we're
but
really
I just, I think we need to try to get better numbers
Yep,
too.
I
So
agree.
see
I
what
agree.
today's costs are.
Yeah.
Versus what 5 years from now.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing is just trying to get in the ballpark of
Right.
what that looks like 5 years down the road. I mean, I get, here's enough.
But
Sorry, I get it.
No, but we wanted to present and
Yep.
reach out to PMA and just ask the question, what isn't even doable within the directive, the ceiling being at $5.3 million of debt service, give or take, $500,000. And just to at least give us some, I get it, we don't have a crystal ball, we won't get to the T. But then the question for me was, for them, is it even on the horizon? Is it so far out that do we tell Dustin that it's not doable? But this just paints some picture.
The city's always trying to give us the airport, so we did entertain, I'm just being
No.
silly. We did entertain the notion of taking the airport and then just using all the hangars.
So I did want to add, so 2026, the design costs are really the important part, but if you don't do the design in 26, you're not going to build the building in 27.
Right, right.
So
That's, you have something?
The design
Well, I
can
mean,
be done,
the
right?
thing of it is, the interest rate, I mean, could potentially be down. Looks like that's a possibility. I mean, usually costs go up, but you never know. I mean, things could happen.
No,
in the next few
right.
years, so. Yeah, I guess we postpone it a year. I really don't want to push off any farther than that if we don't have to, because I would like to be moving forward with it, but yes, I don't really raise levy either. So, I mean, who knows where property values go and what the economy does, and that all can change, so.
Well, and the other reality of it is we don't fully know on the HVAC side. Because because of their decision to recommend moving forward with geothermal, we would potentially still be eligible for federal tax credits if the program survived. There's so many ifs to all of that.
Right.
But as we would get into the solidifying of that plan, there may be a different financial picture, a slightly different financial picture out of that as well, which might create some wiggle.
Potentially, down the road, we should have more income if they ever get them solar things going too.
That is,
To think about somewhere in between the scenario like 1.5. Scenario two, which is borrow in July of 29. You mentioned a year, would be
Do we need to?
27.
I just,
We do.
yeah, I mean, we're gonna, scenario two, I don't wanna postpone it.
I make a motion that we, help me with the verbiage here, postpone the, design and engineering of the, construction of addition or new parts to the highway department buildings, to 2026.
It isn't 2027.
27.
2027.
And built in 2029.
Would it be 27 or 28?
July 20. Trying to get my numbers.
So you-
2028.
Because that's not scenario, that's not one of
No,
you.
it's scenario 1.5.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, if it's-
Somewhere in between there.
which we can change again next year.
But absolutely,
Yeah,
let's just.
so let's just do that. I'd be,
I second that.
motion been made second to postpone the cost and engineering for 1 year. And revisit it 1 year.
Yes.
That is a motion. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
So when will the numbers begin for the geothermal? For the,
Well, if the CIP gets approved next week by the county board, then we can begin to move forward with that money.
Okay.
It's a 2026 CIP expenditure, but I think we can start to do some groundwork on it.
This will be handy for this next Wednesday night.
Consider it 8.
Yes, so there, if some of you are joining the executive committee, of course, you're gonna hear it again, but then you're gonna hear it again with more updated numbers. I'm going to go back to my office and connect with PMA, knowing what some of the dates are, try to build a plan that's going to get us as close as we can to that 5.3, give or take $500,000.
Gotcha.
Because they're able to move some of the principles and interests, like prolong the principle and focus on interest to kind of keep it down
Mhm.
at 5.3. But so I'll have them redo the numbers. And of course, build in that 10%, assuming that the cost might go up.
Yeah, I think we should build that 10%.
Yeah,
I'd rather be on high side.
especially if that's kind of warm.
Okay. Anything else? Going. Next meeting, July 9th. Same place, same time. Meeting adjourned. Thanks for.